Greetings, good people. Welcome to another edition of Leaders and Learners, where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. Listen, we are going to have a guest today that I hope you will engage not just in his words and his thoughts, but I want you to get the book because whether you are married or not, or you have some friends that are married, listen, this book is so entertaining to me. It's better than any reality show that I've watched in a long time. So, yes, welcome to another episode of Leaders and Learners, where we vibe with folks who've lived, who've led, and learned the hard way and come out with wisdom worth sharing with all of you. So, today's guest, yes, Christopher Lyles Sr. He's walked the halls of corporate tech and been on the pulpit as a minister, but it's his raw, unfiltered journey where love, loss, and letting go brings him here today. So now I want you to imagine being divorced twice, still believing in marriage, and brave enough to write a book and call it Don't Ask Me Shit About Marriage. Yes, that part. Okay? Chris isn't claiming to be a guru, but if mistakes are the best teacher, he's summing it up in this book. So grab your coffee or your journal, find a quiet corner, because we're about to have some real talk about love, loss, faith, and what it means to start again, even when statistics might tell you otherwise. So again, let's get ready. Hey Chris, how you doing?
Hey Tanya, how you doing? Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for taking the time. We want to give you a nice for the book because let me tell you, it's not often that a book captivates me from the moment I pick it up, from the
Wow.
title to what you've written in the back. Like, I want to know more and more and more. So I plan on completing this one. I can't say that
Awesome.
about all of them,
Awesome.
but you got me. So listen, I want to start off with a story from you. Like, give me a story about you that helps our audience get to know who you are.
So essentially, even as you read a part of the press, my journey started, yeah, at least in my understanding, like all of us, right, through childhood. And as we go through life and we go through various stages and various pieces of life, we learn. And I love that even about the title of your podcast, Leaders and Learners. And what I found out was there was so much that I did not know. And for various reasons, right? We can at some point stand back and blame, situations or blame people for why we don't know the things that we believe we should know as we go through life's journey. But what I found at a certain point in life was really the essence of what accountability, had to be for me. So this journey into who Chris is, the truth of the matter is he's still evolving. He's still learning. He's still each and every day that I have the blessed and fortunate opportunity to put my feet on the ground. Are opportunities now that I see it where I can learn more about myself, learn more about the people around me. And fortunately slash unfortunately, a lot of those lessons have come through my relationships. They've come through my marriages. Things that I've learned, things that I had to go through the pains of learning. Sometimes we learn and we want the optimal situations for us to learn. Like, ideally, we see things and we want to say that this is how I'll get this information. But sometimes the greatest lessons that we come through the most unfortunate of circumstances. They come through some of the most darkest of times. And if we're fortunate and blessed enough to be able to come through it with at least the understanding or the perspective that I survived it, but I survived it to be able to thrive now into whatever the new next is. I believe then is when we gain the courage, we gain the fortitude, we gain the resilience to be able to press through. So in essence, who is Chris? Chris still learning, but I implore you to go and get the book, because a lot of who I am and who I believe I am today has been thoroughly detailed in this book.
Divorce is not something that's fun. It's hard. It's tiring. It's draining. I'm not divorced, but I've seen my friends go through it. And after you did all of that and you found love and you got remarried, you wrote a book. Listen, writing a book is not easy. Why would you put yourself through that? What is that about?
Listen, it wasn't even just the one time, right? And as I put in there, I'm a two-time divorcee. One of the things that is so and I had to get to a point to where I find the humor in it, right? And because ultimately, tears are going to come from one or two reasons. Either it's because of the pain, or you can laugh and find the humor in it. But to now tell people that I was a two-time divorcee and I got married a third time, literally people twist their head and go, "You all right? Like what made you do it?" So for me, it was one understanding that the me the processes of going through marriage, going through divorce, what I had to find through therapy, through time, and just sitting on the couch and just kind of dissecting, life. I realized that there were some patterns, there were some behaviors that was just I was just oblivious to. I was just kind of functioning in survival mode and didn't realize what that was. So it wasn't until I gotten and met my wife, who has been an amazing support, a major encouragement in this space, but it's literally been a revival of sense in taking with courage this new place. So she was one of the main ones that really encouraged me. Hey, you got a story to tell, and if you truly believe in the healing virtue and the healing nature of where you are, you can tell that without any recourse, or you feeling as though you're ashamed of what you've gone through. I've gone through some tough things, and just the ability to be able to tell it to help someone else, I believe, has been my greatest reward at this point.
I love that. Looking back on the lessons that you've learned,
Mm,
okay, let's just talk about the divorces first.
mm.
You talk about red flags. You saw red flags. What happened? You just like the color red? Like,
Listen, red flags are what they are, but sometimes you convince yourself that you're colorblind, right? And you convince yourself that things will be different once you say "I do." You believe that you have the strength and the ability to love beyond those red flags, and for some, they absolutely do. And for many, "I do" was literally till death. But what I found was I lost so much of myself in those relationships that it was "I do" until death, and the death was me. The death was me internally. The death was a slowly um, dying of who I thought I was, what I thought I loved, what I thought I understood, and so on. So for me, um, and I think it's chapter 4 in the book where I talk about the dark roller coaster. Why did I avoid the red flags? There's an analogy that I give in that I likened it into running to your favorite roller coaster and you just bypassing all of the warning signs, simply because you want to get on this ride, only to get on the ride and realize, wait, I don't want to be on this ride. But at that point, you strapped into the seat, so you got to go with where it takes you. And unfortunately for me, that first ride took me to a place that I was not prepared for. Took me to a place that I was not ready for. And only thanks and glory be to God that I was able to survive it with um, some wherewithal to be able to step away in peace, because otherwise I would have been a headline.
that's deep. Tell me more about that.
Well, I don't want to give too much away because that's really in the book, but ultimately, that the darkness of that roller coaster took me to a place to where I had to make a resolve to never go back to that place again because of what it literally would have cost me,
Mhm.
and to a certain degree, it would have cost me my life.
I want to ask you to tell the audience if there was a time, if there was a day, a moment where you knew this is over, I'm done with this. And also, when you decided to remarry, was there a moment, a day, time that you knew, okay, I can do this again? What did that look like?
Yeah, the moment that I felt like in my first marriage that it was over, it was an outer body experience moment that I
Mm.
knew that if I did not if I did not pivot, if I did not shift or change my position, then it was going to end bad. And ultimately, it was I was at the crossroad of a life or death situation that I had to revert from and change from. So, that that makes any decision that much easier when you put it into that context and that perspective. But coming out of that, my decision to get married again was again going back to resolved patterns, on patterns that I was behaviors that I was unaware of, and went right back into a relationship because essentially I believe that the relationship could help me self heal or go into a place uh, of avoidance. Ultimately, just kind of looking at it like I have another relationship, so I don't have to deal with excuse my lane. I don't have to deal with my shit. But everybody has to be self accountable, to be able to deal with themselves. That's
And what
not for
was
your partner to deal with. That's you.
that? What was that? What were you trying to avoid?
Um, I think I was trying to avoid. I think in if I were to put it into um, language again, not trying to give too much away in the book, but if I were to kind of pinpoint it, it was probably dealing with uh, lack of self awareness, lack of self discipline, lack of um, just understanding the nature of what being a good partner was. Um, and as a man, I think it was important that some of the things that I felt like I should have learned or should have known about relationships prior to that, it wasn't until now I'm in these relationships that I'm going, why didn't I get this? Or if it was being said, why wasn't I aware enough to kind of pick up on what those things were? So uh, now going through the second relationship that's failing, the second marriage that's failing, now realizing, at some point you realize that you can't keep pointing the finger at everybody else. You got to start looking at, wait a minute, it can't be, every woman. It's got to be something that either I'm not aware of or something I'm not dealing with or something I'm trying to avoid. So let's figure this out. So,
What did your
and I
childhood
get to
look
that
like?
point.
What did your childhood
Um,
look like? What did the relationships around you look like? And I'm asking because
mhm,
I grew up. My mom was a single mom, but
mhm,
I also had my grandmother, right? She was married, but it was dysfunctional as all get out. My aunt and her husband was abusive. My uncles were gigolos and
mhm.
pimps. So, what were the relationships around you like, and how did that craft who you were as a man? Like, did you show up as the man that your father or other men in your life modeled after, or were you trying to do your own thing?
I think it was probably a little bit of both. I think for the men in my life, some were married, some were not, and I pull this analogy in the book where a lot of my advice I got from from uncles, other men, the analogy of the man talking with the cigarette dancing off his lip. Come here, boy, let me tell you, you don't know nothing about no woman, you don't know. Yeah, so it was that kind of floating around me. But my mother and biological father never married. Um, So my mother married. I don't want to say remarried. But my mother married when I was about 14. And I don't call him my stepdad; he's my dad. So I actually am fortunate enough to have two fathers, but neither of them, I think, were equipped to help me into the space of what marriage should look like. And both of them, based off the models that they had, they did the best with the information that they had. But I knew, and again, kind of varying from what those models were showing me from them and my uncles and other male figures. Um, my view of it was, it wasn't, trying to find a submissive woman. It wasn't, this ideal of, my masculinity, being overpowering to my woman. So I just want her to do what I say. But I really was looking for what partnership looked like. And I didn't see that a lot in the marriages that were around me, like what true partnership was. We have a plan, we have a vision as a unit, as a partnership, and here's how we go and accomplish that together. Essentially, what I saw was, at some point in time, these two individuals are in their separate spaces, and they may come together, to live life or to do life to a certain point, but then they kind of go off and they're in their own world. And I knew that that was something that I wanted. I just didn't know how to accomplish that.
Mm. So, as a woman, an older woman now, me and my friends talk a lot about what women in our lives didn't talk about. So, the older women,
Mm,
like, they didn't really talk about their sex life. They didn't talk about
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
menopause and we're having to figure it
mm-hmm,
out on our own. They didn't talk about even the incredible discomfort that motherhood can bring sometimes, right? Like there's so much that they just didn't talk to us about and we're trying to figure it out on our own, and building our own community of women to like share these conversations. You got Holly Berry talking about it, and we're having to get this information from basically other women, not the women in our lives. What information would you have liked to have, even if they didn't talk about it?
mm-hmm.
The men in your life, what could they have shared with you to make your path easier, if anything?
Well, I think at this point now, knowing what I know, I and even now, what I try to position for my sons, uh, is really based in a part of, one, in any relationship, in every relationship, know who you are, know what your tendencies are, know what your likes are, know what your dislikes are, but be willing to be honest about that up front. And I don't know that any male model figure that I had taught me how to do that, how to sit in the honesty of who Chris is. One, to invest in time in learning who Chris is, but to know that sex wasn't the end all to be all, right? Although that was how we're how at least that's how I was raised to see sex as, when you get it, it's gonna solve all. No, it didn't solve all of mine. No different than somebody saying, "Hey, you get all this money. It's gonna help." I know a lot of people. I know a few millionaires, like that have money, but it didn't solve everything for them, right? So by the time, what they didn't tell me, if we can really keep it raw and real on here, right, is for a man
Absolutely.
at the point of your ejaculation, when you're done, like, okay, there were a few times after I hit that place, and I'm looking over like, I don't even really like this person. Like, who is what? How did I get here? Like, what?
How did I
So
get
those kind of things, like, how do I get? And there's a segment that in the book that you mentioned in part of the promo. You mentioned love, sex, and the Holy Ghost. But in that chapter, I talk about, there was a time in my dating season where, because sex was this overpowering thing, that, and also I was in deep in my conviction as far as my relationship with God is concerned, where I'm conflicted on one end, but I'm driven to get this thing that I've been designed to get. But it's literally in the moment of my body releasing, it's fluid, and I'm looking over at this person going, "Why in the world, God, am I going to hell for you?" I literally would roll over and start praying, "God,
and
forgive me."
pray?
Yeah, and the person right there in the bed, like, what in the world is wrong with this fool? Lord God, please forgive me. Right. So it's those kind of moments, right? Wrestling with and not having somebody to be able to coach me through those periods, to be able to put inside of me what I needed to be able to not only understand those moments, but to be able to grow from them as a man. And even in some regard, um, not be so hard on myself in those spaces, to be able to learn from them, right? And no matter what those convictions are, learn from them. And I think I just went down this rabbit hole to where ultimately, what I had to resolve through was marriage was just a way for me to get some free sex at one point. Well, I'm saying free, but it was guilt
Yeah,
free sex, right? But when you get in and you kind of look through, like, wait, this is more to it than this. It- it's not this. So
it's not this.
yeah.
Lyric asks, what kept you from addressing those red flags?
Great question. It was me. What kept me from addressing the red flags was, honestly, I think it was the things that I didn't want to hear. It
Mm.
was the for to address a flag in someone else would also mean that I would have to address the flag in me, right? When you're having the conversation of accountability, it's easy to point out somebody else's, yeah, I saw this in somebody else's personality, and I didn't really like that. But that also opens the door of conversation for them to look back at you and go, well, yeah, wait, there's some stuff about you that you haven't handled, that you haven't dealt with. So I think it was and it to ignore them meant we could get on this ride quicker. I'm okay with your unspoken if you're okay with my unspoken. So let's get on this ride and we can ride it out.
Did you not? And I think you've said this, but I want to go a little deeper. And did you just not know who you were, or you were not ready to acknowledge who you were? Maybe you knew who you were and what you liked and don't like, but you didn't want to address that or acknowledge that, because I think there's parts of us that we don't acknowledge because it's uncomfortable. Is that what was going on with you?
Yes, that's a lot of what was going on with me. I got married. I was 22, turning 23 when I got married, in my first marriage. So, but the arrogance and the ignorance that I existed in was a space that probably, I would say, I don't know if this is true for most 20-year-olds, but it was my mentality that I thought I knew it all. I thought I knew what I needed to know, right? And that was enough information for me to make a lifelong decision. But in it, I'm realizing I didn't know half of what I thought I knew.
Was there anybody in your life telling you, like, don't do this, or you don't have to do
Initially, initially, no, not.
this?
And this is where the danger part of it comes in, especially when we use religion from a space of relying on people that have these spiritual relationships, or they know a few scripture. I think I knew enough of in my relationship with God that enough people just trusted that I was hearing correctly. Enough people trusted that I was
Mhm.
mature enough spiritually that, hey, well, he must know what he's talking about. But I wish that I'd had, some of those male figures to put me in a room, put me in a headlock, or punch me in the chest real hard, and, and make me, think twice about it. Right? I don't care what kind of scriptures you can quote. Right? At the end of the day, are you whole enough? Are you mindful enough? Are you accountable enough to be able to step into the space that you're about to step into?
Wow. Yeah. When did you become a pastor?
I started pastoring. Well, I've been a minister since
Yes.
1998, and I started a church in 2012, and I stepped away from the pastorate in 2017. So I
And
pastored
what?
for about
Where
five,
were
six
you
years.
at in your? Where were you at in your relationships when you started?
Pastoring, I was just remarried and going to my second marriage about a year. I'd been married for about a year into my second marriage. And it was in the course of that relationship that I not only was the marriage failing, but I was realizing that ministry, that level, that that area of ministry, yeah, it was something that I again had to be accountable to. Like, no, I can't lead other people into this space. So when I stepped away from pastoring, COVID essentially was a couple years away from that, and
Hmm.
so that became my excuse. Like, okay, phew, I'm good. I'm away from it. And here lately, over the last 3 years, 3 or 4 years, there's been a different calling, but for a different reason. What I believe now is because what I'd gone through was really you hear the young people today talk about the sauce. Like this, because of what I'd gone through, this now becomes the sauce
Yeah.
of being able to tell and share with people not only the love of God that can help anybody sustain and go through, various challenges of life, but also uh, in finding your authentic self. I truly believe that you truly find the presence of God.
Yeah. You have a chapter you're going to read for me from that chapter I was
Yeah,
talking about. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So here's an excerpt. It says, everything in life has its proper place. A chair can be used as decoration in a room, but its purpose is fulfilled once someone sits in it. A house, a bed, a car, or anything you think of, all can be used in ways opposite of their design intention. But bring it to life and fulfill, but I'm sorry, but to bring to life and fulfill the purpose for which it was manufactured, it must be used in its proper context. Context matters. And I believe context is connected to the spirit. It is both the illumination and the framework that gives substance and life and helps guide us into truth. You can use any of the objects in any way you choose, but when used in its proper context, the truth of why the bed, the chair, or the car are realized. I'm gonna say that part again. You can use any of the objects in any way you choose, but when used in the proper context, the truth of why the bed, the chair, or the car is realized. So what I find is that in relationships, especially in marriage, when you truly understand the context for why it was created, when you understand why God designed it to be what it was intended to be, and you begin to fulfill it, you begin to use it in the way that it was designed to be used, then you can begin to connect in a way with your partner, with God, that allows you to be able to see each other for who you are, be able to see God for who He is, and be able to accomplish the things that He's designed you to do.
Man, that's a good lesson. I hope everybody heard that. I do want to ask you though, because you were married during your second, I mean, you were in the church during your second divorce, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, as a minister and husband, did you feel like you had a choice between saving your marriage or saving face at church?
I would say that I don't know that I've ever felt, um, either of those to a degree of for the sake of image, right?
Mm,
And I think there's some things that I talk about in there, right? I think it's the trying to maintain image or continuity of perspective for people is where we ultimately begin to imprison ourselves when you try to live up to someone else's modeling. And I think for me, one as a pastor at the time, um, and in my pastorate, the convictions that I had around that was really almost in line with what I just read. Right, what I found was my conviction point in pastoring was I was trying to pastor a way that God never told me to pastor in that particular way. I was trying to do it based off of models that I saw, previously. But I literally heard God's voice say that it failed or it's failing because I never told you to do it this way. And that was a gut punch, on the Sunday that I heard that. And likewise for my marriage, when I realized that, the things that I did not see going into it, or the things that I wasn't accountable to going into it, were the very things that I'm staring back at 5 years later, 4 or 5 years later, that that was really that really became the impetus of why it was failing. And that was something I had to take account for.
Yikes. People say face a lot instead of facing the truth.
Yes, yes,
It's so
yes.
hard.
Because we don't want to, nobody wants to be seen in a light other than the perfect light that we present, right? It's the reason why, you know, and I can only speak for me. If you're taking a picture to try to post online, right? Or you try to, I had to do this for a class not long ago. I had to post a video, and it took me an hour just to post a 3-minute video because I wanted to get it just right. I wanted to get my words just right. Some people want to get the lighting just right. Some ladies want to tilt a certain way just to get the right profile just right.
Mangles, give me
uh,
mangles.
that part, but it's the it we do that. We go through those lengths because we want to present a certain way. We want to present the right way, as opposed to being your most authentic self. Because whoever told us that being your authentic self is what will sell the best? Nobody ever really says that, right? But that's the truth. People want if people want the real you, whomever the real you is, right? That they want the real you, and that's what I'm finding even in this project. And really, where the courage came from to do it was to finally step into this authentic space of being me.
Because
If
here's
you
the
get this
thing.
book, go ahead.
Here's the thing. If you are putting on, that's what we say. You putting on for the people.
Yeah, yeah,
Eventually, the mask falls off, and you're either going to have to explain who the person is behind the mask. You're going to have to, you know, talk about it. You're going to have to solve the problem of whatever you've been hiding behind the mask. At some point, the person behind the mask needs to be revealed. It will. You can't hold it that long. It's like holding your breath.
you
Eventually,
can.
you will either die or you will start breathing, and you're not going to be able to hold your breath for long.
Yeah,
So it becomes, you can't fake it. It ain't no fake it till you make it. You're going to fake it till you break it, because every relationship that you faked it in will eventually realize who you actually are. Part of, I think, who we hide is, I just think a lot of people have some unresolved trauma. And even
yes,
myself, once, I started resolving some of the traumas that I had dealt with, I was like, oh, I like messy actually. I like all the mess. I enjoy it all. Let's just do all the things.
right,
No perfect pictures. Just look crazy.
right.
And then that gives us something to laugh at. But acknowledging who you are, like, I love to laugh. So messy works for me because it does. I'm not trying. I noticed when you talk about the Instagram situation and all the
Hmm.
pictures, people like this idea of perfection, but the truth of the matter is nobody really is. So y'all really out here perpetrating that life is so manicured and
Right.
manipulated. But that ain't the truth. I absolutely love a good messy picture. I want to know what's going on in the background. Let me see who made that mess over there and left it. It opens you up to conversations and opportunities to connect better. But when I see a perfectly manicured picture, I just like, I know that took hella time. That
Yeah,
just
yeah.
that's
That, you know how long it took to do that airbrush?
that's too much. We could have been doing something fun while we were putting on for the people. Like,
Right, right.
and it just seems like people that are their most authentic self are winning these days. They're just winning. Like, you got Serena out here. She ain't got to be putting on for nobody no more. She's the mom. You might see some messy pictures. You see Rihanna and her kids slobbing all over her shirt. The people that used to put on are now being messy, and we are loving it. Like, we are
Yes,
absolutely loving it. We're loving
yes,
it. So,
yes.
all that
And
being said, I do want to ask you though, because there are a lot of people out here that still desire the married life. What would you tell a brother out there on the verge of calling it quits, but scared of starting over because it's we all want to be in these wonderful relationships. We don't want to be seen as failures. Give them some good advice if they know it's not good.
yeah,
But also, did you do the work to make it right? I think that's really where the conflict comes in.
there you go. And literally, I talk about an example in the book of a brother coming and asking, because he had known that I'd been previously divorced. after the first divorce. And he had come to me and he said, how do you know? How did you know that it was time for you, to get a divorce? And I asked, I said, why are you asking that? He said, well, I'm just wondering if it's time. And my honest response back to him was, well, if you're asking that question, you're not there. Go back and make it right.
Mm,
If you're asking the question of how did I know, you're not there. If you're on the verge, you may not be there. Let me put it that way. But again, it goes back to literally what you just pointed out. Can you be completely honest and transparent to say that you put in the work necessary for your relationship to survive? And when I challenged him, he went back and he did the work, and they're still married.
mm,
This has been 15 years ago, and they're still going strong. So I think that's the piece that we can't overlook, right? So to that brother that may be on the verge, one, again, in being accountable, being honest, being transparent, have you done the work? And if you can say that you've done the work and it's still not working, then that's where you and your quote unquote partner have to come to a meeting of the mind to understand where the gap is and to understand what the next steps are. And if it's something that you have just, completely grown apart, or you need life is just life in a way that you have to pivot or you have to go somewhere different, just be prepared, one, for what those next steps are going to bring and what those steps are going to be, because divorce can make people can make situations way worse than what you sometimes realize. And sometimes, it's not as easy as, well, hey, you sign your paper, I sign my paper, and we go our separate ways. No, it, there's a lot more involved, in it, that, the emotions and, just the whole psychological piece you have to be mindful of. So the work is the piece that you have to always be, ready to put your boots on and do the work. And likewise for women as well. You asked a question for men, but for women as well, are just again, just being honest and upfront, transparent about what that work looks like, for you, for both of you in relationships.
I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Keeping it 100 before we get out of here. With
Okay.
everything that you've experienced, everything that you've seen, the advice that you've given, the people you've helped, even the people that you haven't been able to help, because I'm sure everything didn't end happily ever after.
Mhm.
Is there such thing as happily ever after, or are we all just out here doing the best we can, hoping we don't have to crash out?
Absolutely. Happily ever after begins, includes, and ends with your peace.
Hmm.
If
Say
I
it
can
again.
look at my partner, if I can look at myself and be in complete and ultimate peace, not necessarily, striving for happiness, but striving for peace. When I found peace is when I found my wife. When I
Wow.
found peace within, when I found peace within Chris, for the decisions, for the failures, for the great, for the terrible, when I found peace with it all, and even because even in that space, I was content that I wasn't ever going to get married again. I was done. Two times, hey, Teddy P said it takes a fool to lose twice and start all over again. I was done. But in finding peace with it all, and being able to let go in that peace is when I found the most beautiful, wonderful, wonderfulest of treasures that ever came in my life, and I'm just grateful for it. So
So we can have happily ever after? Is that
you
what you're
can
telling me?
have, yes, you can have happily ever after.
What is your advice for people that feel like they're never going to find their person?
Be patient because you don't own the process.
Hmm.
You don't own the process, and in many cases, you don't own the result. Right? All you can do is live your life experience. And as you live your life experience in the most authentic way that you can, that means every day you wake up, every day that you lay down, and you look yourself in the mirror, you can be happy and peaceful, and that peace with who you are. You allow God to, to do the God stuff, because you're not in charge. You're not in charge of who walks into your life. You're not in charge of who walks out of your life. All you're in charge of are the decisions that you are accountable to make each and every day. So let God be God.
I love that. Well, I want to thank you for being here today. Please let the people know how they can get their copy of the book and continue to follow you and support you in your journey. Are you going to be touring? Do we get a, book signing out here in California? Like, give me something.
Listen, I can't wait to get out of California. And I'm one phone call away, Tanya. You let me know. But I can come to any city to do a book signing. You can get me by www. Don't ask me about marriage. Don't put the cuss word in there. www. Don't ask me about marriage.com. You can find me there. You can find me on Instagram at Don't Ask Me About Marriage. You can find me on Facebook at Don't Ask Me About Marriage. Both of those are our sites, and we're building those up. I'm going to be looking at Tanya to wink, wink, help me out to build that up from a marketing standpoint. But you can certainly reach out there. And again, I'm looking forward to engaging with you all. Can't wait to have more sessions like this. And I like in most cities that we go to, we can have like a QA panel where we can kind of talk more, not just about the book, but just about, where life is and where we're going.
Absolutely. And you're still ministering, yes?
Not pastoring, but I am ministering. So,
Okay.
yeah. If you need me to come preach, I promise I won't cuss in the pulpit. Get your
Hey,
boy out.
but we need you to keep it real, though. We need you
I'm
to
gonna
keep it
keep it
real.
real. I'm gonna keep it real.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Do you have the book with you so you can show the people again? I just
I
want
don't
them.
have a copy on me. I don't have a copy on me, but we'll put one up.
Yeah, we definitely will. And I want to thank you again. Listen, guys, this is an opportunity for you to get your together. Okay. All right. Thank you again. And we will be talking to you soon.
Thank you, Tanya.
Hey, thanks for showing up to the podcast where we all know that the best leaders are like what you think about today's episode? Follow and subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming up next. For your professional needs, marketing, PR, communication, follow us on all social media platforms at Sand and Shores. Again, thanks so much for showing up. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.